What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode and edition of the Wrestling Hour right here early on adfreeshows.com and, of course, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to wait a couple days, you can do that, too, because we are presented by My Fandom. And, of course, this episode can also be seen in a few days on the My Fandom YouTube channel. Dave Sturchio alongside Josh Shernoff. Josh, we have ourselves our very first guest on the Wrestling Hour. We've done season 1 where it was just me and you babbling about the past and everything like that, and it was great. Season 2, we even got off to a different start, I want to say. It's a different take on the Wrestling Hour where we're kind of like peeling back the curtains, less comedy, but, you know, still trying to watch and appreciate the sport of professional wrestling. But now, what I said and what we both agreed to was that in order for these shows to grow and get some legitimacy behind it, we have to do some interviews, and not just any interviews, because I know there's a million people that are out there, Josh, that are going to, I'll do an interview, I'll do one. It's not like that. We got to start off with an absolute banger. That's what we have to do, and you can find that shirt on another website. But listen, we have to start it off with one of the hottest professional wrestlers right now, gimmick-wise, song-wise, stature-wise, in-ring ability-wise. This week, Josh, we got Joe Hendry on the program.
I mean, we literally a few weeks ago said his name. There was traffic, but he eventually appeared. Joe Hendry is going to be here in studio. By studio, I mean wherever he was. And great, great. We just wrapped up talking to him. We're going to play that for you guys. We're going to throw to that at the end of this episode. Very excited for you to get to enjoy that. Man, we touch base on a lot of things. For instance, is Eminem going to be there? Well, you guys probably saw the clip online at this point. Is Eminem going to be there at Bound for Glory? Well, we got a little inside information on that. Talk all about Clash of the Castle, his face being on the billboard there. And just some really interesting stories from Joe Hendry. Little conversation about Matt Cardona that I could have done without. And that'll be addressed with myself and
you say that because you don't like what he had to say. So that's
it's not that I don't like. I love what he said about Brian Myers.
Agreed. So, listen,
regardless,
a great interview. Yeah, a great interview. You'll hear that in a little bit. But look, there is still wrestling going on in the world today, right?
Wrestling has more than one great podcast.
Yes.
And that's ours. Great. And there's wrestling going on I'm sorry, I just interrupted with that. Go for it.
No, first and foremost, we talked about the My Fandom app earlier, but the only reason why I bring that up is you were able to contribute to that said app because you were in Philadelphia. What were the vibes like in Philadelphia? This is the first time you've ever brought two of your 3 kids, the 2 kids that are of age, of course, that can actually appreciate this. You probably could have gotten away with bringing your youngest and he'll like the glitz and the glamour.
Oh, no, he's insane. He would have charged the ring or something. Like he's
right,
nuts.
Right. So tell me about your experience in Philly, man. Look, last time we were in Philly, you and I were at WrestleMania both nights. So that's... You know, it's a different feel right now when you're playing dad rather than broadcasting.
So I will say right off the bat, and I kind of go back and forth on whether or not I want people to like me. So, and I kind of lean towards I don't care and don't want you to, because that's, what sells more action figures and, gets more bookings. But I want to say, at the risk of sounding, cheesy or whatever the case might be, whatever slang the kids use today, like cheesy. The best time I ever had in my entire life going to a pro wrestling event. That includes being backstage at the first ever All In, all the stuff I did with AEW, all the different events we've been able to do, covering WrestleMania, covering SummerSlam. Incredible experiences that as a kid I dreamt of being able to do. The best experience I ever had was being able to sit in this crowd. Section 107 is where we sat. And watch my 2 kids go crazy for WWE. They were
yeeting their asses off.
yeeting like never before. They showed up, weren't really sure what that was all about. Like, they'd seen, because you look at it from a kid's perspective, right? So they seen Jey Uso And they know the crowd's like, and he says yeet, and they know the crowd's like bouncing. But, from a kid's standpoint, they're not seeing it in the way that we're dissecting every little thing. But once they're there and they see everybody kind of doing this, you can see them kind of starting with like, oh, maybe I should bounce my hands a little, maybe. By the end, man, it was like you'd think they'd been yeeting for years. It was unbelievable. Took them to school this morning. I always play some music in the car. They asked for Jey Uso's theme.
And
then I'm sitting there at 8:15 in the morning trying to explain what ish means and why it's main event ish and day one ish and all that. And the
best part is you're probably in the drop off line, like as you're trying to drop your kids off at school, and you're just like off to the corner, your windows open. It's been nice here in Jersey and Pennsylvania as far as the weather is concerned. Your windows open and you're just like sounding to yourself. It's like just me.
Yep.
Dang on, just sing along to this shit. Listen, man, awesome experience. It was really cool to see that you guys had a fantastic time.
Yeah.
But speaking of that said match. And the way they're drawing it all out, and basically what you've seen on WWE television lately is Jimmy Uso's back. He's trying to get Jey, and then there's been interactions with Roman, and they're trying to get together. Is this the perfect way to really get Jey back into this storyline? Because one, he loses the Intercontinental Championship. Congratulations to our dear friend of the show, Braun Breaker, who becomes a 2-time Intercontinental Champion. So bravo for that. I think his second run is going to be even better than his first, because he barely even wrestled in his first run. I feel like that was like a weird thing. He was like sitting back for like 6 weeks for a tournament to end. It's like, okay, great, it's over now. But bravo for that. But more or less, this bloodline storyline, Josh, it's just got the extra element and the kick in the ass that it needed, because I don't want to say it was getting stale, but you needed something new, and I think that we're not done adding pieces. You know what I mean?
It's so layered. Right now, we're at the enemy of my enemy is my friend standpoint for Jey Uso. That's where I see it, right? Mm-hmm. You had Roman say on SmackDown, I'm proud of you, the whole family is, or we are. I forget exactly how he said it, but say everyone's proud of him. And I believe Jay's response was something like "no yeet." So
is that English? No.
Yeah. So, but I think we're at a point now where Jey is going to say, I don't care. Okay, you want me to team back up with Roman? I don't want to. I don't want to team with Jimmy. I'm pissed. But these motherfuckers are going down. And that's it. And I think, but again, there's so much, there's so many levels to it, so many layers to it. My kids actually think this, and I agree, the whole internet does as well, that, when they come back and they need to find one other original Bloodline member, it's got to be Sami Zayn. Sammy's been off. When the time comes, they need to fill up that War Games, because we're headed to War Games, right? So look at it this way.
I guess I'm thinking bigger. I don't know. I'm thinking way bigger, because we have not seen the Wise Man in quite some time, along with Roman and Jimmy and Jey, right? So there's got to be some kind of link to Heyman. I feel like
you're thinking Lesnar.
I'm thinking Brock. That's as a fan.
And here's why I'm not thinking Brock. If Brock comes back, which by the way he's still involved in this, whatever. If Brock comes back, I think he has to come back as a heel. And here's why. You cover your ass on if they boo him. If people are not happy about Brock being back, you cover your ass by making him a heel. What are they going to do? Yell things at him, boo him, chant at him? Okay, good. That's what we want.
But I think they have a way to present him as a savior of sorts. If Heyman's in a predicament again, the bloodline's all taken down. Roman and Jimmy and Jey are getting their asses kicked. All of a sudden, Solo's got him in his grasp. Are you really what's the bigger pop? The Brock Lesnar music or the Sami Zayn music? I think the Brock Lesnar music would just be beyond one of the bigger pops of the year, if not the last 5 years. And again, even if the the critical, oh, it's Brock again. He's gonna be a main eventer. He's a part timer.
I mean,
Like,
I don't give a shit about that. Yeah,
they're all part timers. But what I'm thinking is the story of Brock and Paul Heyman also plays into this, because look, if you think about it, Roman has done battle with Jimmy. Roman has done battle, technically, I guess, with Jay, I guess. Both.
That's how it kicked off. The whole thing kicked off with that, right? So
he's done amazing battles with Brock. So all of a sudden, all four of these guys technically don't want really a lot to do with each other, but they're all fighting the greater good, and the greater good meaning, let's take down this new bloodline led by Solo and Jacob Fatu and the Tongas, and you know what I mean? Like, it has legs. You want to talk about Sami Zayn? I just don't know if the appeal is there. I get it. He would be Uzi and all this other shit, and like, I just
think when you're looking at that story, I think that makes more sense. I think so. Okay, looking at it this way, it's 5-on-5, right? Is what War Games is.
I think so, yeah.
Can that change? Of course, they can change. They make it whatever they want. But let's say it's 5-on-5, right? So you have Solo, Jacob, you have Tamatonga, Tangaloa, and who am I forgetting? And we need a fifth.
Well, they have The Rock.
Final boss, maybe, right? Maybe the final boss. So there's a question, who's that fifth? Then on the other side, you've got Roman, Jimmy, and Jay. And then there's that fourth, to me, is going to be Sammy, and or Cody can be 4 or 5.
I understand Cody. I get why Cody. I get that part. I know I'm frozen here. I'm probably getting a phone call of some variation, but the audio people
are happy. People are happy.
I know. And
I was going to say you looked like
I look concerned. I will say that the Cody thing, while it makes sense because the Roman.
Well, we're in it. We're in it.
We are in it, and I don't know. Are people going to be like, dude, like, is Cody getting stale? Is what I'm saying. Like, this could, even in Cody being inserted into this, is that people going to roll their eyes and say, like, oh my God, another main event where Cody has to be there? Like, are we finally going to develop?
I can tell you. Let me tell you.
Like, we don't have a fucking contender for this championship.
If I learned anything from going to this show, going to Raw, it is that the internet is not a real example of what wrestling fans are really like, in the sense that anyone who's on there going, oh, Cody's kind of getting stale, I'm not really feeling it, oh, Cody's that, whatever, dude, the sound in that place, the love for that guy, he's good, but I agree with you, he needs a contender for that championship. What's funny is, Raw has just like one after another of all of these people, all these different opportunities of different people for the World Heavyweight Championship.
Right.
But let's not forget, and we're talking about that potential fifth person, doesn't have to be a bloodline member. Maybe that fifth person's Kevin Owens. Because we have Kevin Owens, who, the way they're playing that with Cody and everything. Now imagine this. Imagine we find out who the fifth person is and it's Kevin Owens. And it's like, oh man, okay, that's who their fifth guy is. And then we already know Cody's number 4. And then we find out number 5 is Sami Zayn. Kevin Owens will freaking explode.
Okay.
And that's one of the things my kids brought up. Because think about that. The whole reason... What's that?
You said your kids brought that up. That's
great. The whole reason that Sammy turned on Roman was because of what Roman was doing to Kevin, and he couldn't take it anymore. And Roman told him to hit Kevin with the chair. And that's when he turned around and hit Roman. And that created, them going on to main event WrestleMania and the tag titles against the Usos and everything like that. And Kevin Owens seems to be the only one who, some could say only one who remembers, some could say the only one holding the grudge, right? And I'm reminded of a time when I was a kid, and this is what I love about this story, okay? There was this kid, he was a bully back in middle school, right? And he bullied me and a bunch of my friends. We just hated this kid. He's just such a, awful, awful kid, right? I went to, I had left in 7th grade, went to a private school, came back to public school in 11th grade. Okay. Little inside baseball for everybody. And when I came,
so much. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that private school is where I met my good friend Lukewarm John Brody. Shout out to John Brody, my original tag partner. But and that's how the whole TWF started. My whole
private school,
dude. You know what though? Never would have happened in public school because we were given the gym, the school's gym for free, and given all of the chairs because we did it the day of graduation. So all the chairs that they had rented for graduation, we were then able to use. And this was all because the principal of the school was like, hey, I love what you're doing.
Little Josh Shernoff, the businman over here, brokering deals from day one.
I was day one-ish. So, but, okay. So when I came back in 11th grade, I remember being there. All of a sudden that bully comes by, right? And my friends who were with me along being bullied by this kid and everything, we're all like, hey man, what's up? And they're all like, buddy. And they're telling me, they're like, dude, he's changed so much. Like, he's a good dude now. Like, honestly, like it's not what it was. And listen, man, people changed from 7th grade to 11th grade. Okay.
Sure do. Yeah.
And at the end of it, he had some family issues that came to light later on. And that starts to really make you understand where he was and why he was.
Sure.
And eventually it got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm cool with him. It is what it is. But that first little bit, I was sitting there like, am I the only one who remembers what this guy did? And you guys are like friendly with him? No, F this guy. I'm not doing that. And I thought about that in the Kevin Owens thing. And I looked at it and I said, I love this because is Kevin the bad guy? Or is Kevin how I felt in that instance? And were my friends like Cody, were they? Because in that moment, I'm like, what are you guys doing? Don't look at me like I'm the bad guy here. This guy, look at all the things that he did. And I look at it and I go, and like, this is an opportunity to the layers in this story, as opposed to, Kevin Owens turned on Cody. You never, you didn't, whatever. No, man, they're doing it in such a great way that now I look at it, and this is why now I want it to be Sami Zayn. Because before it would have been Sami Zayn, he's feeling oozy and everyone's laughing and it's great to see him back. What a feel good moment. Him and Roman back together again, him and Jay and all that, But to now look at it and see what that does to the Kevin Owens character, I feel like could be that much more interesting. Because now would
you save that for a surprise for Survivor Series?
That's what I'm saying, is just like how last year nobody really knew. We all kind of knew it was Orton, right?
I think they announced it was Orton. Like
they like teased it by saying
they announced it was Orton, but they said, "Oh, he's not here yet."
It was it was. They said something about like someone I have legacy with or some crap. I don't know. They made it very clear. But what I'm saying is, they should do the same thing where that music finally hits of who it is, and it's Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. I mean, because nobody on that roster does. Kevin Owens is phenomenal with his facials, with his, the way that he can express that emotion. For a guy who is such a damn good talker, he's just as good saying nothing, just the look in his eyes and stuff. And so, to me, I look at that and I go, man, there's so much meat on the bone of that story, and that's something I'd really like to see.
Yeah, no, it's going to lead up to something fantastic regardless. WWE has not missed in quite some time when it comes to storylines and stuff like that. And Josh, where are we at on time? Because I have a story to tell, and I want to make sure there's enough time before we get to our special guest of this show. I think
we're good. I think we've got another 10 minutes.
Great. Okay, great. So there's something I'd like to get off my chest here on the Wrestling Hour, because I don't have the Fight Factory podcast at this point right now, because still going through some changes and stuff like that with the studio. So I haven't really been able
Tommy D holding you up for money.
Yeah, basically shit like that. But I'd like to publicly, and again, next week, teaser, we have a major guest that will discuss more into what I'm about to talk about. And we'll leave that for, again, an announcement down the week, I guess we could say. But I was talking to a guy. Facebook has a wonderful feature that says, like, pops up right on your, you've been friends with this guy for this long, and like, share your friendship, right? So the other day, this is near and dear to your heart, I was reminded that I've been friends with a Danny Moff on Facebook for 12 years. So for as long as I've been in the professional wrestling business, I've known Danny Moff. Now, Danny Moff, the character, and I, sure, don't see eye to eye, right? He's my champion at Fight Factory.
I don't king of professional
God
wrestling.
King himself. I don't like the way he's gotten there, blah, 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 right? That's story, all good, and that's wrestling.
Talent and ability.
Kayfabe, listen, kayfabe has been dead. I know that certain people do try to keep it somewhat relevant. Moff is one of those guys. He'll tell me to go F myself on my social media, but then maybe text me later like, yo, man,
I'm sorry, did you say he sexts you later?
The same thing. I would say it's a sext. Yeah, I think it's definitely a sext, because he is such a romantic big man. I love him to death. No, but listen, my story about this is I've known Danny Moff a long time. I've known him when I couldn't approach him because I was terrified of the guy. I was like, okay, I'm a rookie in wrestling. This guy looks like he could rip my head off with one punch type deal, or a gorilla ripping me in half. That was then. Right now, I could probably stand toe to toe with Danny Moff. So we'll see about that. Because I believe as we left the Wrestling Hour last year, there was a New Year's resolution that I was going to get in the ring with Danny Moff. Not sure. Still got some time left. Don't know about the promotion that'll do it, but whatever. But what I will say about Danny Moff is that he's always been there for me, right? And he's been a mentor, a trainer. I tore my ACL in 2014. I went very dark. It was not a good time to be me. Pills, booze, just not a good time. But there was one guy who always kept in contact with me every day, and it was him, to make sure I wasn't spinning off the planet, to make sure I was talked to about whatever we saw on Raw, or how's my recovery going, or whatever. Doesn't matter what it was a conversation because he cared, right? And then when I came back, he's like, look, man, you've been calling yourself Destruction, and I think that's a false thing. You haven't been a destructor. It's time you live up to that name. I'm going to take you under my wing, and this is how we're going to do it. And I was like, shit, man, all in. And then obviously, I kind of segue into the media, realm of it after I retired from in-ring. But Moff has always been my guy. And I've always looked at Moff as the Benjamin Button of professional wrestling. When I say that, if you're familiar with the movie, the guy gets better as he gets older, okay? Or younger as he gets older, right? So that's what I see out of Moff, is that he's still delivering Meltzer's 5-star matches, right? Like all this, he is still delivering time and time and time again. So I wonder to myself, I said, when is Danny Moff going to appear on MLW, TNA, AEW, WWE? Is his time past because of his age? I'm not sure, right? I'm not sure. But this past week, I realized that AEW took it upon themselves to book a specific match at Full Gear. I believe Full Gear is coming up. That might be their next pay-per-view. I have no idea, because I'm officially denouncing and checking out of AEW going forward, because guys like Danny Moff can't get a match, or can't get a side gig, or a booking or something. Like Danny Moff has done a million things for the professional wrestling business, but we're going to give that spot to AJ of the Costco guys, the Costco boys, AJ and Big Justice, these two clowns that have been running around the internet enjoying their 15 minutes of fame, and leave it up to AEW to try to piggyback off of their clicks, off of their, and I get the business part of it. I do. I really do. And I promise you I do. I'm not trying to just be bitter because it ain't Moff, or it ain't somebody else that I know, or whatever. It's not me or you behind commentary. Like, it doesn't matter.
No, hey, look, if they want to suck, that's on them.
That's the problem I have now, is that AEW has officially sold their soul to the highest amount of clicks. And that's why that business will never prosper. Those Costco guys, I have full firsthand experience. As a business owner, I own Chop Studios in Mattawa, New Jersey. If you ever want to do a podcast or any kind of content, come on out.
By the way, not an ad. Not an ad. This is just part of the story. It's part of the story.
That's all it is. They came there once upon a time and they rented from me because they wanted to record their new song to go viral with. I said, fine, I'm more than willing to help you out. In fact, if it's not too much to ask, like once you're done doing whatever the hell you are doing, tag my studio. You know, maybe I'll get some notoriety from that. There was no tagging of the studio. The kids that were there were making themselves at home. I have 50,000. Josh, you've been at my studio. I have 50,000 chairs in there. You could sit on any chair you want. But the kids took it upon themselves to sit all over my tables.
Were these the guys that were sitting on the table that time you and I were on the phone? And you're like looking at, and you said you were like looking at something, or I don't know if we were on the phone or we were together or whatever, but you were like watching, you had like your security camera.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I wanted to show you and prove it to you that these people were being rude. And then AJ, the guy, I come to find out that he's a Mike Sharp. I think it's Mike Sharp, right? The trainer. He's a wrestling trainer. So this guy, this older man, older than me, has done wrestling for some kind of other whatever. He tried to be a wrestler, failed at it, and now here he is doing
Iron Mike Sharp.
I don't even know, man. Maybe I'm wrong. Who gives a shit at this point? Clearly, he didn't make it in wrestling, so now he's whoring his family around trying to get the boom going from Costco, and they are nothing but flash in the pan type people that in a year from now, hopefully, nobody will even know that they existed. Right? They were very rude. AJ was very rude. These people are just not good people. I feel like the kids are being held against their will. The fact that they're celebrating these kids who look like they're pre-diabetic at this point because they, the diets are not in check. I'm not calling myself any man who knows all of nutrition. I just know when a kid looks unhealthy, right? And you're promoting that shit. So side story aside of them being dog shit people, them getting a booking at a Full Gear pay-per-view or whatever the fuck the name of the next pay-per-view is, and guys like Danny Moff and other people who have paved the way and blood, sweat, and cried for this business, that makes me say, AEW, thank you for coming. Thank you for providing some of my really good friends with some paychecks, because that's all they see it as well. And I'll be the first one to tell you that I've had conversations with guys down there, and they're all like, hey, listen, I get to wrestle. It's a cool atmosphere, big crowd, sort of, and I get a guaranteed paycheck. We're all good down there. Don't worry about me. Right. So I'm just like, hey, you're right. Go do your thing. But I just needed to get that out there, that booking the Costco guys was a straw that broke the camel's back type deal. That was the dagger for me for AEW. So now I don't care who works there. I don't yes. Do I still have friends, actual associates that I hope do well? Yes. But as far as like kissing ass and trying to make, it apparent that I can't say no wrong about AEW because, we might not get hired. I don't want to work there. You could offer me all the money in the world. I stand on my morals. You can fucking offer me millions of dollars, and I would not go and work for an organization that whores themselves out and has one dictator. It's just a bad place to be.
I 1,000% agree with you. I mean, I'll go. I'll go. I'll take half that and I'll go.
Okay. Well, I'm just
maybe
saying
even a quarter
from an outsider's perspective of knowing how bad business is over there. And now for them to do that. And look, I get it. Ad-free shows, people that are listening or anybody else that's listening. If you're an AEW diehard, I'm not telling you to stop watching the product. I'm not telling you to turn your backs on AEW. I'm just telling you that one person, say, coup de grace.
Well, that's business versus creative, right? Like your issue is more the quality of people that they're employing and everything. But here's the thing. Let me play devil's advocate for just a second here, right? We get, and you acknowledge this too. We get this is business, right? Yeah. We have Joe Hendry about to hop on here, and we have him on here for 3 reasons. 1, we think he's freaking great. 2, TNA management and Ross Foreman were kind enough to set this up for us to help promote Bound for Glory, which is coming to you this Saturday. And 3, because significantly more people will be watching and listening to this episode than any of the previous ones, because Joe Hendry is our guest, right? I mean, that's it. That's why do you have guests on the podcast? So I get the idea of these guys are pro wrestling adjacent in a sense, right? His experience in it or lack of experience or whatever the case might be, maybe they're just fans, whatever the case, right? There's an opportunity here, an opportunity to take AEW, which is floundering, and make people who are outside of that bubble tune in because they follow this dude on TikTok or whatever the hell. Number one, no one's paying money to the pay-per-view to see them. Nobody is paying money.
There'll be plenty of fucking clips you can clip up for free.
Right. So. No one's paying money. So they're hoping now that, people are going to see these clips. It'll get some coverage. People will go, oh, AEW's still a thing, or oh, AEW's a thing. And they will go and tune in. Where can I find that? Oh, it's on TBS and TNT. I can go check it out. And, I get it. And listen, from a business standpoint, it's smart. It makes sense. But it all comes down to, what are you trying to do? Now, you talk about guys like Danny Moff, right? And I know on air, Danny Moff is, he is the God King of professional wrestling. He is this, that, and the other, and I'm his cheerleader. I'm his benefactor and his consigliere, right? Outside of the ring, I'm a guy who could not have any more respect for Danny Moff and what in his contributions to the professional wrestling business. I also am a guy who sits back and watches Danny Moff and goes, this dude's money, because you can't fake what Danny Moff is, right? So I look at him and I go, why isn't he there? And I'm sure fans will have different opinions. He was in Ring of Honor. He was, why isn't he wrestling on Ring of Honor? And I don't want to hear any bullshit reason that you might have is just that. It's bullshit.
Well,
so to me, I look at that and I say, why? And the only thing I can think of is that one guy doesn't care for him. And I don't mean personally. I mean, one guy just, not my cup of tea. I'll go get, this guy over here from New Japan to show up on Ring of Honor instead. And listen, it's not my company. So whatever. I do wish that there were people, maybe if there were people who worked backstage at AEW, who worked around Tony Khan, who had made this guy like let's say hypothetically those people had their own independent wrestling company and they'd made Danny Moff their champion, or Danny Moff was like a major part of their product. Then I'd say those people could, go to Tony Khan, and the buck stops with Tony Khan. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just that to me.
People are scared and they're complacent, right?
Well, what are you scared? This is what I don't understand. What are you, if I may pontificate for just a moment, what are these people scared of? We have these people who work backstage at AEW. They know their entire roster that they've had at their other promotions or whatever it is. And they're worried to put a word in for a commentator. They're worried to put a word in for a manager. They're worried to put a word in for a wrestler, right? And the answer is, well, yeah, look, you got to understand, they're afraid to lose their job. Well, to me, the best way to have job security is to go, hey, boss, you may not have heard of these people, but this guy over here is killer. And you should definitely give him or her an opportunity on your show, because I'm telling you, they're going to knock it out of the park. And now the boss is going to do that. And that person's going to knock it out of the park, because you're not going to recommend somebody that you don't have all the confidence in the world that they can deliver. So now that person does deliver. And now Tony Khan goes to them and says, hey, do you have anybody else in mind? Or now the next time when an opinion comes up, maybe Tony Khan's looking at them because he's going, oh shit, they were right about this guy. They're right about Josh Shernoff and Dave Sturchio as a commentary duo. They're right about Danny Moff as a wrestler. I'm just, to me, I don't understand the fear of losing their job unless it is a lack of trust in someone else, in the sense that, let's say someone were to walk over to Tony Khan and say, hey, you want to spice some things up? Josh Shernoff, hell of a manager. Josh Shernoff and Dave Sturchio together, great announce team. Dave Sturchio, you're looking for a play-by-play guy, that's your man. And then they have the fear that we show up and shit the bed. Because, in fairness, that doesn't reflect on us. That then reflects to Tony Khan on whoever put the word in. And if that's the case, I get it. But if that's also the case, I look at it and say, you know, when you're batting 1,000, you know, when you've never phoned it in, when you just cannot miss in the quality and what you're doing, what else do you need to prove to somebody
Exactly
what you can do? So, you know, that's it.
Listen. All right, listen. Another side story. It was 2018 in New York. There was a young, strapping, good-looking fella named Dave Sturchio who got a chance and an opportunity to ring announce for Impact Wrestling's Bound for Glory. And that is where we're headed this weekend. And even better, we got the #1 contender to the World Championship at TNA. And it's none other than Joe Hendry. Now, again, the conversation was had already. We had a great time. I think that it was one of the more insightful things about betting on yourself, which kind of reflects on what we were just talking about.
Yep.
You know, I think it all kind of ties in.
It ties into also not being afraid to say, because not being afraid to get heat. He says something in this interview.
That and take advice. And be acceptance of somebody else who may or may not have been around the block already.
Yep.
And says, you know what, this is the way we should try it. And then Joe will tell you in this interview, like, oh, you know what, let's do that. Right.
It's really interesting.
It's a great interview. I hope you all enjoy it.
My question though is, do we say his name and he appears, or do we have to say, like, is it say his name and he appears and then he's there, or do we actually have to say his name and he appears, I believe in Joe Hendry? Joe Hendry, welcome to the Wrestling Hour.
Thank you for having me.
Oh man, thank you for being here. This is exciting. You were actually our first guest that we have ever had on this show. This was a no guest format. And then we said, you know what, if we bring Joe Hendry on here, so many more people will watch it. So
that's sound logic, my friend.
There we go. So obviously you were here ahead of Bound for Glory, which takes place this Saturday in Detroit, Michigan. You will be challenging your first ever singles match for the TNA World Championship against Nick Nemeth. Going into that, I mean, this is huge for you. You have had, for a guy who has been in the business as long as you've been, you also seemingly came out of nowhere to a lot of the fans. Obviously, people now with the internet are able to go back and go, oh, wow, he was having like this match with Kurt Angle before and all that, you know, and learning all the things that you did, obviously Ring of Honor and all of that. But now TNA, I feel like you're synonymous with the TNA brand now, especially with the relaunch of that brand and everything. So what does it mean to you having this opportunity coming up this Saturday?
Well, that's a great compliment. That's very nice to hear, considering that, you know, as a 17-year-old kid, I had a video iPod and room for one video on it, and that video was Kurt Angle confronting Samoa Joe in TNA Wrestling. Wow. So to now be someone that's representing the company in the world title match at the biggest pay-per-view of the year, it means a lot to me. It's something that I've worked very, very hard for, but it is because of the fans. The fans have hijacked the show. They've hijacked the plans. They've hijacked the trajectory of professional wrestling, because when they're behind me, there's nothing I can't do. So I'm ready to kick off the Joe Hendry era. Actually, let's be honest, it's been the Joe Hendry.
It's all right. We're deep in it at this point.
Yeah, let's make it truly official at Bound for Glory.
Awesome. And I know Dave's going to have a question, but I do want to say, you talk about kind of, you know, the fans hijacking wrestling in general. I took my kids to Monday Night Raw in Philly this week, and they have this thing during commercial break where they'll show signs, you know, everybody show us your signs and hold them up. And there were a handful of, I believe, with your face right there. And I mean, this is Raw. This is, you know, and obviously your time over on NXT got people talking about you. More people saw you, which I think was such a great thing for TNA and WWE to do, because like I said before, with you being synonymous with it, it didn't feel like this, oh, Joe Hendry's here in WWE. It really felt like Joe Hendry is here with TNA in WWE. And now you're there just enough for everyone to be like, man, we need some more Joe Hendry. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, come on over. We got him here, Bound for Glory in the main event with Nick Nemeth. Like, I think that was perfectly done. So yeah, man, congratulations on that. Just the fact that the fans are continuing to get your face out there, even if you're not there on the show.
Thank you. I do appreciate that,
Dave.
I think it's just crazy. Obviously, you know, on the independent wrestling scene, we're all, you know, I know Josh specifically is a massive Matt Cardona guy, right? So like you see what guys like that. Yeah, I know, best friend in the universe. I get it. I get that it's all about self promotion in this business, and that's really how you get yourself over with the crowd and the higher ups, and to get these opportunities and earn these opportunities, such as this weekend. When did you realize, at what point did you say, you know what, this is gonna go places and I need to like double down? Because there was a point where your story on Instagram or X or Twitter, it just started to look like a teenage girl's tick marks on a New Year's Eve. You know what I'm saying? There was so many little stories. And I said it because that's what they do on New Year's Eve. You take a bunch of pictures and there's a million stories. Now Joe is doubling down and he's seeing that all of these people are putting his face everywhere. At what point did you say, you know what, this is, I got to go double, triple down on this, because this could be the moment that I've worked for my entire professional wrestling career?
Well, first of all, Josh, you know, you were saying you were a huge Matt Cardona guy, and I just want to say that it's okay. We all have things about our personalities that we need to work on over time. So, you know, I'm sure we can move past that.
I think we're at our time here.
Jokes aside, no, Matt is he's the original. You know, he's the original for taking matters into his own hands, and you know, he. You know, we don't get on in the ring, but he looks out for the talent, and when it comes to learning the business side. So, you know, that's the one time you'll hear me say anything positive about Matt Cardona. I'll never say anything positive about Brian Myers. He's just too far gone, you know.
Well,
but Matt, we could throw out one. We could throw out one compliment. But the moment I would have to say, I mean, it's tough to pick what. Actually, no, I do have a moment. It was in Philadelphia, actually, and I think it was in April or May. It was the first time I worked. It wasn't actually the first time, but it was me and Ace Steele had lunch, and I sat down and I says, "All right, Ace, let's do it your way. What are we doing tonight?" And you know, I'd been, let's say, a little bit closed-minded up to that point, because I was just so. It's weird. I just felt like I had so much to lose, and really to take it to the next level, you have to try things and operate like you have nothing to lose. And I thought, do you know what? I am actually just going to forget anything I know about pro wrestling, and I sat down with this and I said, do you know what? Let's do it your way tonight. You tell me how you think this match should go, and I'm going to do exactly what you advise. And we did that, and that was a real shift for me. That day, and the reaction we got in Philadelphia. I had a match and a promo, and that was the day when it just felt different. It was Philadelphia, and I thought, okay, we're on to something now. And then I had a concert. I had the concert in ring, and you know, my mentor at the time in TNA management had said to me, "Look, I know you," because I hadn't played acoustic guitar live in probably about 8 years or something like that. I played my song guitar in the studio, but live I hadn't played acoustic guitar in about 8 years, and I was a bit like, oh, I don't know. The Rock just did a concert. I don't know if I can pull it off. And he says, look, at some point, Joe, if you're going to be a top guy, you have to understand that top guys don't say no. I ain't going to make you do it, but I think you can do it, and I'm challenging you to do it. And we would have the same conversation before every taping. I'd go, I don't know. And he'd say, no, I know you can do it. And after that, I then just started to realize, no, I can do it. And I think that translated with the fans believing that I could do it as well. And then the fans just really started to get behind me, and something just clicked. And it's just been learning from then.
It's a lot of credit, not to cut you off, Josh. It's just credit to you, though, because in this professional wrestling business, Josh has been an active wrestler, promoter. I've been an active wrestler, now a promoter and commentating team. And it's credit to the people that are actually open to that. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of guys that are closed-minded and say, you know what, nah, it's not going to work for me. I have to be this guy. I have to do this. If it doesn't work, it just doesn't work. Like the fact that you're like, kudos to you for saying like, all right, you know what? Let's try it your way. We'll see what happens. And lo and behold, here we are. So you got yourself a championship match on Saturday. So I think that's great. So yeah, bravo for that move. And then being that open-minded in a very creative, selfish business, you got to just do that. You got to go that way. So good.
You have to be a student of the game. It's funny, you know, I've had people critical of elements of my game, but I don't really ever get offended by it anymore, because if like, for example, if you go and look at my cage match ratings now, I think people will be quite shocked. That would be who I would believe would be the harshest audience. And, you know, I get positive reviews now where I maybe didn't, you know, 12 months ago. And I believe I'm building up a consistent run of good matches. I had a lot of people, you know, people who are a lot of people on the outside. I even had people who I've had, I won't say who, but I've had people literally tell me that they didn't think that me versus Ethan Page was going to deliver at No Mercy, and I believe that we completely blew everyone's expectations out of the water. And then, you know, I think it was like a couple of days later, a week later or something, I had a match with Josh Alexander that, you know, I went hold for hold and toe to toe with Josh Alexander, who's one of the best in-ring competitors. And so for me, I'm getting better every time I step in the ring. So it's never the finished article for me. So people can say what they want, but I believe that I'm delivering and getting better. I'm consistently getting better. And this may sound arrogant, but I genuinely believe I'm the most, if you look at where I was at the start of the year, I'm the most improved wrestler in the world. Across the board, I'm the most improved wrestler in the world.
I mean, without question, notoriety-wise, you're the most from, right? The way that trajectory has gone. And one of those things was obviously the song taking off and everything, but Clash of the Castle, when you had your face on that sign, that kind of leads me into, it's almost a double question, that and also the songs that you do in the ring and the stuff that you do. Is there ever concern? This is a business, like Dave mentioned, you know, he and I both been in it for a while, and you can easily get yourself some heat, right? Somebody doesn't like it and people start to talk. There are some people who, you know, have more fragile egos in this industry, in any industry, right? But were you concerned at any point that people, let's say the WWE locker room, were going to go, what is this? Like, who is this guy? Like, what's going on here? Or anybody in TNA who is going to say, oh man, come on, we're doing our thing in TNA and he's trying, you know, whatever the case might be. Did you have any concern with that it wouldn't be taken in the spirit that you intended, which obviously it eventually was taken in the correct spirit?
The spirit was completely selfish. The spirit was to make myself a bigger star. So let's not pretend that it was some noble reason. It was, you know, I went all in on that move, knowing that it could have and maybe did get me heat. Who knows? But it didn't seem to hurt me. You know what I mean? And this is, my mentor also told me that if this person told me any heat that you get, if there is any heat that you get for doing that billboard, will be nothing compared to the respect you'll gain for it. The short-term heat that you'll get for doing that will be nothing compared to the long-term respect you'll get for having the balls to do it. And that's what I believe. So yeah, I've no doubt that I got heat. Who knows from where? No doubt about it. But you're just not going to be a top talent in this business if you're not ruffling feathers. And that's something that you just have to accept. And you know what?
Back it up.
Yeah, well, you're not going to. Sometimes to make the omelet, you have to crack a few eggs, and there's no rule book on this. You know, you got to grab attention. We live in an attention economy. I understand that, and I understand that sometimes you're not going to get it right, but you need to. You're never going to know where the line is until you cross it, and I might have crossed it a few times.
and speaking of, you know, you trying to get yourself out there to a bigger audience. So it started with obviously Bound for Glory this weekend in Detroit, Michigan. And you posted something online inviting Eminem to come to Bound for Glory as your guest. I loved the picture that you had with all the blonde wigs and everybody there. So, and then you took, if that wasn't enough, which, hey, that got that started getting picked up, which was really cool to see. And then I just saw today, as we're recording this, that I wouldn't say issued a challenge, but put out a hypothetical that if you were to become TNA champion, that it would almost be rude not to invite John Cena to TNA. So you are really, which I love, you're just putting it out there going, hey, Eminem, come on by. John Cena, why don't you come on over here? We'll have ourselves a match. Like, what is, again, with that, is this just you saying, like, what can I do to be a bigger star? Or are you just saying, let's throw some stuff out there and see what sticks?
What I've learned is that you throw things out there and they pick up steam, and sometimes they become reality. I will tell you this, and I would never lie, and I will tell you this. We're going to think really carefully about how to word this.
Choose those words wisely.
Yes. Eminem showing up is entirely possible at this point.
All right.
That's what I'll say. With regards to John Cena, he is retiring. That is a match that's my dream match right now. And I would regret it if I didn't give it everything that I had to try and get that match. The timing is everything, and the way that professional wrestling is right now with the working relationship, I will do everything I can do to try and make that happen. Ultimately, I will, need to be respectful of the situation and what John Cena wants to do and the other parties involved. But I at least need to make it very publicly known that that's something that I would like to do. I have to give it my best, and I think, can you imagine that moment? If I'm able to get my hands on the TNA World Championship, then turn to camera and say his name, that's a moment right there. And, maybe there'll be, the moment with me having my, video iPod, and there's Kurt Angle who crossed the line to confront Samoa Joe. Wouldn't it be pretty full circle if I was to invite somebody like John Cena? And, again, I've told this story before, but John Cena was the first pro wrestler I ever spoke to as well. So that would be a real full circle moment. My friend went to a meet and greet that I couldn't go to when we were 15 years old. And he said, John, please, would you phone my friend? He gave him his phone and says, I've called my friend. Please, would you talk to him? He couldn't make the meet and greet. And John Cena talked to me for like 5-10 minutes on the phone and let me just be a fan in that moment. So wouldn't it be crazy if I got to wrestle the first pro wrestler I ever spoke to when I was a kid? It'd be crazy.
This has to happen.
And genuinely, John Cena's t-shirt was the only wrestling shirt I owned as a kid.
That's a
all
beautiful
right,
thing.
We're gonna do our part, try and make this happen. This has to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll start a movement if we can. And now look, it's just from a professional wrestling standpoint, story standpoint, everything that's about to happen. We'd be remiss, or I'd be a fool to say like, oh, I can't wait for that Cena match, or I can't wait for that next Joe Hendry match. You got a tough task ahead of you, right? And tell me a little bit about how you feel going towards Nick Nemeth, who, in my opinion, for whatever reason, and I don't know what it is, right? We're never going to actually figure it out. But I looked at him when he was in his time with WWE, as I'm a big Shawn Michaels guy. So when I saw him come onto the scene, I said, you know what? That guy right there, he's got those tools that he could be. And, you don't want to say like the next this or the next that. He always wants to be his own person. But I thought he was on the cusp of really, really big things. And I still think he is, obviously now being where he is and the stature he is. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts going into this match with Nick coming up this weekend.
He's not on the cusp of big things. He's the world champion. He is the guy. And he's been the world champion everywhere that he's been. He's in ring. He's one of the best to ever lace up a pair of boots. And quite frankly, it's an honor to work with him and an honor to wrestle him. That said, unfortunately for him, it's just not his time. It's my time. Everyone knows it. And let's make it official at Bound for Glory.
Love that.
Love it.
I have one question as we wrap up here, because I know you are busy, and thank you again for being here with us. One question I have is the, for lack of a better term, we'll call it your gimmick, right? The song, the whole spin around entrance and everything like that. We talked about how it's kind of taken the wrestling world by storm, even kind of outside the wrestling world. Like it is really caught on. with anything that is incredibly popular, whether it's wrestling, it's music, it's food, right? If there's too much of it, eventually, even if it hasn't gotten any worse, we as an audience can go, I'm kind of tired of it. How do you keep yourself at this point so fresh while continuing to do this that nobody seems to be getting tired of this? Everybody is still waiting for that turnaround at the start of your entrance. Like, how are you managing to continue this build without any risk of burnout from this?
Well, I think that people are always the more well known you get, the more that, just with anything, it's like people have their tastes, and I will not be to everyone's taste, but the more well known that you get, you will soon find out about the people who do not like you. But you know what? It's like, to me, again, I'm very inspired by John Cena, who is like, they care. If they care, that's good. They're making noise, and the crowd are always loud for me, online and in person. And I think a huge part of it is that kids love the song as well. Like the other day, I was at a signing in Sacramento, and actually no, sorry, it was Los Angeles, and a kid came. Actually, there's a bunch of kids who come dressed as Joe Hendry. There's usually one at every signing, and it's really cool. Kids love it. So it's like I'm building new fans every day, and it seems like people of all demographics really enjoy what I'm doing. But you can't concern yourself about like, oh no, maybe I need to pull back a little bit and all this. It's like, nah, you just got to give it your best, be your authentic self. And I think that translates to the audience. And how you keep it fresh is, once things get to a certain level, you start having fun with the possibilities. Like, what happens if I just start throwing John Cena's name out there? What happens if I just start inviting Eminem to shows? Don't forget that when I first showed up on NXT, we were teasing that for weeks beforehand without ever knowing it was going to happen. Sometimes you got to manifest it. And look, I'll be surprised of all the things I'm saying, all the crazy things I'm putting out there. I'll be shocked if at least one of them doesn't happen.
I'm excited for it.
I love it. I love the positivity. I love the drive, and I love everything you got going on, man. You're on a roller coaster right now, and right now it's going up, 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 and we can't wait to see what happens on this weekend, man. I mean, if you're saying it, I believe it, right? I mean, that's kind of the thing anyway, right?
Yeah, we believe. Hey, we believe over here, for sure.
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely. Of course. And I will say also, over the summer, there was a video with your entrance, and I showed my kids. I'm like, this is pretty cool. And they just, man, they hadn't even seen a single one of your matches at that point, and they're just running around down on the boardwalk in Atlantic City, Ocean City, just singing your theme song. So, yeah, man, it catches on. It's a bit of an earworm in the best way, and the best part about it is when they eventually tune in and check you out, you deliver, and then some. And that's the thing. You're not that one-trick pony, and maybe that answers my own question that I had asked you before, right? Of how do you continue to build is because you're more than just that entrance in that song. So, yeah, man, again, congratulations to you on everything, on all of your success. We will absolutely be watching, and we encourage everybody here, whether you're watching this early on ad-free shows or you were watching it on the My Fandom YouTube channel, to go and watch Bound for Glory this weekend. My last question for you, as you can see in the corner there, this is presented by My Fandom, the My Fandom app. We have a thing called the My Fandom 3 count, where we ask somebody what their 3 favorite live events they've ever attended are. Their 3 favorite pro wrestling live events. So what are your top 3?
Okay, so I'm going to have to give the first show I ever went to, which was it was a SmackDown, and the card was unbelievable. The first match I ever saw live was Rhino versus Eddie Guerrero for the US title. So that's a pretty good match.
Right?
I actually got to tell Rhino that, who I believe Rhino's going into the
Hall of Fame.
The Hall of Fame this weekend. So that was very cool to tell him that. And the main event was Brock Lesnar Undertaker. I got to see there's a tag match involving John Cena and Kurt Angle. I got to wrestle Kurt Angle. So, you know, there's actually a picture from that show. It's on my Instagram somewhere. I might repost it, actually. It's of me holding a replica world title. So that might be a cool thing to post this weekend. So that's going to be one of them. I think I'm going to go with Philadelphia, the one I spoke about, and it was April or May in the 2300 ECW arena, because that's kind of when everything kicked off for me. And then I think it's tough. I think I'd have to go with me versus just pick something different from another promotion. I think I'd go me versus Kurt Angle for What Culture Pro Wrestling in Newcastle. My family were all there watching me wrestle Kurt Angle when I started training in 2013, and by 2016 I was wrestling the Olympic gold medalist. So there you go. That's my three.
Just nuts.
Well, thank you so much again. I don't want to take up any more of your time, but thank you.
Actually, there's so many. There's so many.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be this weekend. Who knows?
There you go. All right. Well, we'll have you back. We'll talk about more of those sometime. And you'll come back when you're champion. How about that?
Well, we'll see. Let's see if we got some of the. We'll bring the cash. If I'm the champ,
it's going to work. All right. That's fair. That's fair.
Bring a 6-figure sum, and then
I understand.
There you go.
Sounds good.
Love it.
Thank you so much, and everybody again. Bound for Glory. Best of luck this weekend. Looking forward to it.
All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, another fantastic episode of the Wrestling Hour. This one, listen, there's no other way to not believe in Joe Hendry. A fantastic story, a fantastic path to get to where he is today. He's obviously soaking it all in, taking it all in. He'll never forget how all of this started. And again, a great sit down with him. We wish him the best of luck this week at Bound for Glory.
Could you imagine if I was managing him?
I mean,
could you just imagine? Yeah, I mean, he's gone from here to here, but I mean, I'll take you out of frame. You know what I'm saying? I'll take you all the way up there, right out of frame.
Confidence is key, and that's something that Joe Hendry does not lack, and that is confidence. He explained it in the interview. We want to thank him. We want to thank everybody for listening in to this said episode of the Wrestling Hour right here on adfreeshows.com first. And of course, you'll find us on the My Fandom YouTube channel in just a few days. Go ahead.
And hey, if you are going to be there in Detroit, Michigan, we want to see your pictures on My Fandom app. So go right and make sure you take those pictures. If you're there for Bound for Glory, we want to see all of those pictures on the My Fandom app. We're going to be looking. So take your pictures, post them.
We also want to find out if one Slim Shady will be in the building. So we'll have to.
Oh, man. I'm just the thought of it, man, makes my palms sweaty.
I mean, my knees are weak. Arms are heavy. There's vomit on my sweater already.
Oh, mom spaghetti?
Yeah, it hurts too. Which, by the way, we just did that way better than Barack Obama.
No, we didn't. I mean, we did, but also we didn't. That was tremendous. I'm sorry. Horrible. I'm sorry. I don't care what side of the political. Dude. No, I'm sorry. Was Barack Obama rapping Eminem after being introduced by Eminem on your bingo card forever?
It was not. There was many things.
Oh, it was no Hulk Hogan, showing up on stage at the RNC. I'll give you that.
Brother. Anyway, listen, we hope you enjoyed this episode. We had a lot of fun with Joe Hendry. Good luck to Joe Hendry this weekend at TNA's Bound for Glory. You can buy that pay-per-view. Make sure you tune in this weekend. And we'll be back next week with another major guest here on the Wrestling Hour. Stay tuned for that. For Dave Sturchio, Josh Shernoff, and of course, thank you to Joe Hendry. We'll see you guys next time.
Rock out with your Barack out.